Hey Pipe Pals, this is the Pipe Pound here, coming at you from the lair. I just finished smoking a bowl of pirate cake, which I've been really enjoying lately in my Brigham, you see back there, 3-dot pot, I guess that's the shape, pot. A couple observations on that. This pipe didn't really seem to like the pirate cake, because I've been really loving it, and it was a little bit off in here, I don't know why. And the other thing is, don't eat cheese curds before you smoke pirate cake. They don't go together well. Okay, the reason for this video, I just want to do a little book review of one that I just finished. And let me get it, Dighsx, or Dighsx's character, Old Man Jenkins, for a second. When I was young, we didn't have something like Kazaa or Ping or suggestions, or not Kazaa, what was I thinking of? Pandora, that suggests, well, you like this music, you should definitely get this music, try out this guys, or girls. So what we would do was, read liner notes of discs for people they would thank. Sometimes they would reference other bands, or if they were label mates, find some old music zines, or not old, but obscure music zines that you could trust. And another way that's a little bit more adventurous was when you would take your hard-earned dollars down to the music store and pick up a disc. My time it's discs, I guess earlier on would be records. And just randomly buy something that you like the cover. That's a little bit risky because if the music sucks, you're out $20. I did find a few good bands that I really enjoyed that way, like John Frusciante, his first solo album. It's pretty challenging, but it was really important to me when I was younger. That one comes to mind right away. I also bought a band called The Anniversary. I just bought their album because I liked the cover. I think it was called, I forget what it was called, but if you see their covers, you'll notice it's pretty colorful. It's got a song called The D in Detroit and The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Why I bring that up is the same thing happened with this book here. You probably can't see the cover. Check that out. How's that? It's called A Woman in Berlin. And once again, I might be out of the loop. This might be a landmark tome in the print industry, but I wasn't aware of it. So I was just walking up and down the aisles and grabbed this off the shelf randomly. And I can tell you, I've been blown away by this book. World War II has been a recent area of interest, but not so much from the fighting, the Army or Navy or Air Force point of view. Like, we held these people in reserves and we did a pincher movement and we brought, we did that. That stuff's not that interesting to me. More along the lines of the civilian or the people who are just trying to scratch out a living in the crazy time that it was, what their stories were, stories of survival, and, things like that interest me. I want to read you just a little beginning of the foreword, okay? It is perhaps no accident that an extraordinary work like A Woman in Berlin has had a history that is no less amazing. First published in 1953, the book disappeared from view, lingering in obscurity for decades before it slowly re-emerged, was reissued, and then became an international phenomenon, a full half-century after it was written. The events described are also extraordinary. The author, a woman living in Berlin, took meticulous note of everything that happened to her, as well as her neighbors and friends, from late April to mid-June 1945, a time when Germany was defeated, Hitler committed suicide, and Berlin was occupied by the Red Army. While we cannot know whether the author kept the diary with eventual publication in mind, it's clear that the private scribblings she jotted down in 3 notebooks served primarily to help her maintain a remnant of sanity in a world of havoc and moral breakdown. The earliest entries were literally notes from the underground, recorded in a basement where the author sought shelter from air raids, artillery fire, looters, and ultimately raped by the victorious Russians. With nothing but a pencil stub, writing by candlelight since Berlin had no electricity, she recorded her observations, which were at first severely limited by her confinement in the basement and the dearth of information. In the absence of newspaper, radio, and telephones, rumor was the sole source of news about the outside world. As a semblance of normalcy began to return to the city, the author expanded her view and began reporting on life of her building, then of her street, then on the forced labor she had to perform, and her encounters in other neighborhoods. Beginning in July, when a more permanent order was restored, she was able to copy the contents of her 3 notebooks on a typewriter. These pages, authenticated along with the original notebooks by a foremost expert on 20th century diaries, stand as a shattering indictment and complete our record of the time. So this, I forgot to mention, is written by Anonymous. They believe now to have figured out who actually wrote it, but I just wanted to say, I made a little note here. Not only is the excellent writing vividly describing the zeitgeist, making astute observations that bring you there, but there are also thought-provoking ruminations on life and death, men and women, dynamics between people during and after disaster-type situations, etc. I was really struck by the clarity of her vision. Like she observes everything going on with a very judicial eye. She doesn't have a whole lot of overly emotional responses here. She records what happens and then tries to theorize why, and really does a good job of taking into account all the factors that led up to her struggle, basically. So anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. As you can probably tell, I'm not much of a book reviewer. I've been educated in the sciences, biology mainly. So I am bereft of the language and convention of proper book reviews. So anyways, if you stuck with me this long, I thank you, and I would very highly recommend A Woman in Berlin, written by Anonymous. Thanks for watching. Bye.